Welcome to the Indiana Football Postgame Show with Jim Coyle and Coach Shannon Griffith. A production of ISB Media. Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle, and game analyst, Coach Shannon Griffith.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Indiana Football Postgame Show from here at Memorial Stadium down on Merchants Bank Field, along with Coach Giff in studio as Indiana completes an 11-0 undefeated home season as they win today 31-7 over the Wisconsin Badgers in a game that started out a little slow. But Indiana just did what they do, Coach. They just methodically rolled over a Wisconsin team who had a game plan coming in, and that was to slow this team down. And they did it right off the bat with that first drive that took about 7 minutes off the clock, Wisconsin. But they come up empty, 0 points. Indiana goes down and scores. And it was close there for a minute. They were able to score at the half, make it kind of a little dicey, make you thinking a little something. But and 5 sacks on the day, man. Wisconsin, the line getting after it, and 7 tackles for loss, I think. So a great day by the Wisconsin front. But Indiana gets through it. Fernando Mendoza, what looked like a pedestrian day, Coach, he ends up throwing for damn near 300 yards, 299. He was almost perfect, 92% completion. 4 touchdowns on the day. I mean, get out of here with these numbers. They're crazy. And that's on a day that it doesn't look like he's doing anything.
Yeah, he makes it look easy. And if anybody ever wants to know why you are a good team, all you have to do is look who the trigger man is, because that is the huge difference between being a really great team and an average team. Evidence today, Wisconsin has a rookie freshman starting his first game. He's not ready for the big stage, going up against a veteran like Mendoza, and it's a no contest in that regard. However, like you stated, Wisconsin defense did give Indiana fits, something that I was concerned about early in the week. Indiana only ended up with 83 rushing yards, and like you said, 5 sacks on the day, 7 TFLs. That's back-to-back weeks that this Indiana offense in the run game category has struggled mightily, and it's something that they're going to have to address over the bye because they need the rest. There's no question about that. Because the
guy talked about that very thing in the presser, and he said it's not just the players, hell, the coaches. He said we're tired. He said everybody needs rest. We've got guys that are dinged and beat up and just need to get healthy. And you can see it. It's just, man, it's coming at a good time. It probably didn't look like a great time a few weeks back, but now you're like, yeah, perfect timing because it's before the Purdue game. More importantly, before the Big Ten championship game.
And something that was pointed out during the broadcast today, and it didn't dawn on me until they stated it. This is 6 straight weeks of Big Ten football, of which the majority have been on the road. That in itself takes it right out of you. Traveling consecutive weeks back to back, on the road, not getting great sleep, and adding to the aspects of it being a conference game. There's a lot of things in there that us as the casual observers don't get a chance to observe or see behind the scenes, and that's what Coach Cignetti was referencing. They're tired. They look like they were holding on for the better part of the first half and instead of being able to attack. But the defense does what this defense does. They started playing with some fire, get the turnovers, turn them into points, and that's how they got going in the second half.
23 yards they allowed Wisconsin in the second half, man. They end up with the total yards, and they less than 200 total, 168 total yards, 23 in the second half, like I said. Penalties, both of them, both teams combined for 2 penalties.
I know.
That was incredible to see. But third downs, man, Wisconsin could not get past it. 2 of 11 on the day. They were 2 of 2 on fourth down, so but they just not enough. Their game plan was, they ran the ball kind of fairly successfully early on. Indiana feeling things out, but they made the changes and it was over. As like I said, they just shut Wisconsin down in the second half. Of course, it didn't help when Atuka got hurt, the running back for Wisconsin, when he went down. Kind of a scary moment. You saw the card out there and the backboard and the team's kneeling. And I asked Coach Signetti about that after the game because he brought his entire team together. If you remember, it was everybody at one big huddle. And I asked him what he was talking about to his team in that huddle, because normally you don't see him getting the entire team together. They're with either the offense or the defense. They're all got their things going on. But he was specifically referencing things. These injuries hurt. He goes, I've had some serious injuries happen on the backside of games, and just got to be careful out there because you're so close. You're so close to reaching these goals, that things that you're working on, and of course, that's just an injury. I mean, those things are going to happen. And but he said they prayed, and they're hearing that he has extremity feeling in his extremities now. And it was kind of odd because it wasn't like he landed on his head or anything, but I don't know if he actually went down on the first tackle there, but I forget who actually got to him. Daniel Nduke, and just planted him like a flower. I mean, just boom. And I was watching the play through my binoculars, and I saw he never moved from the time he hit the ground. He was laid out and just didn't move. And so hopefully he'll be okay and not dealing with anything serious there. Certainly thoughts and prayers to the team and his family and teammates and all that, because you don't want to see that.
Yeah, and
Indiana gets through the game healthy. We do not see Elijah Surratt today, but I was not surprised, Coach. I did not expect to see him today with the bye week coming up. You're not going to risk that. You're bringing back against Purdue to knock off a little rust. Be ready to go for the Big Ten championship game is what I'm thinking, what I'm hoping that they'll see from him if he's able to come back, that is.
It sounded as if that was the plan that the broadcasters were conveying in the broadcast today, especially with the play of Charlie Becker. It gave them that flexibility not to rush Surratt along, and Charlie Becker again fills in admirably.
You mean the guy who goes back-to-back weeks with 100 yards receiving as a fill-in?
And I mean, he's, a kid that, like we said a week ago, has busted his tail, all, being the backup, being the guy that's ready to go in the time that they need him. And they tapped him on the shoulder and he hasn't looked back. And EJ Williams had another nice day again today, 5 receptions, made some nice blocks on the perimeter. Omar Cooper had 3 catches, 1 touchdown, wasn't a major factor today, but they were going to take him away come hell or high water. And that was kind of their repertoire defensively. But you're correct. Luke Fickell has dealt with a ton of injuries this year, and that's the sad thing and the hard thing about college football. You're very close to being like that in a heartbeat because they happen, and they happen more in consecutive days and weeks with injuries, unfortunately. And that's what Wisconsin's had to battle through all year long. Fortunately for Indiana, they've remained healthy. That's a lot to do with the strength and coaching staff and their nutrition, but they need a week in sunny Miami here to let their body relax and heal and absorb some Florida sun.
Absolutely. So they'll have plenty of time off after the Big Ten championship game, but that's 3 weeks away and 2 more games to get to. So getting healthy, like we said, getting through that, you've got to get past Purdue now, because Indiana now staring at a 12-0 undefeated regular season, first time in program history. First time today, they go 11-0, so they cross another milestone. Fernando Mendoza sets the program record for touchdown passes, and with 30, and he didn't even throw a touchdown pass in the first game and didn't play almost a whole game's worth of fourth quarters.
Yeah, right. And the other thing I liked,
I'll be right back. You can take me out for a second and you keep them going.
We the one thing that I talked about in the pregame this morning was to get a rushing game going. That never really overly materialized with, again, inconsistencies up front and not really knocking Wisconsin off the football. But the one thing that they did do successively today, and I think aided them in some ways, of having a screen game. The tight end screen, the tailback screen were beneficial to this offense today. And I think that in itself helped in some respects. And I got a question during the game. I believe somebody asked a question about what do I think Cignetti said at halftime. And I think the general impression would have been that, he went in and laid into him and, hollered and yelled and screamed. And I said, probably to the contrary. He probably went in there in a very calm, collected manner, redirected their thinking to what they needed to do to get through the second half and get back to playing their style of football. And he probably did that in a calm, cool fashion, because the worst thing you can do at that point, especially struggling in the first half, like Indiana did there, is to go in and try to read in the riot act about how bad they played in the first half, or the defense not getting off the field on third downs, or the offense not being able to sustain drives. And he probably was positive. He probably got him to calm down, refocus, redirected, got the assistant coaches and the coordinators to get together to get a plan and come out in the second half. And you saw what happened. They generate 2 turnovers. They get touchdowns off of turnovers. And what was a close game by the middle to end of third quarter was a game that was out of hand already in the second half. And that's what a good coach does. He knows when to push the buttons and when he's got to pull back. And I'm guessing he pulled back a lot there at halftime, not worrying.
He talked about not going for it. Those 2 times he didn't go for it. He said, you know how hard, he said, that I didn't like not going for it on 4th and 1 and 4th and short. He goes, but this game was going in a manner that when you do something right there, and he knows where the line is. Yeah. And I think that showed it right there. He knew that was, if they went for that and didn't get that against this team that is not as good as they are, but if you give them life, if you give them some energy, you never know. Exactly. Hope's the worst thing you can give somebody.
Yeah.
And if you turn that ball over, and they had been so pretty damn good on the front, so it was a risk. Hell, they had 5 sacks and 7 tackles for loss, like I said. So the front line playing real well. Smart move in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
He did not out-Cignetti himself, and that shows that, as you talked about, he's coaching right there. He's playing to win the game, to not put his team in a compromising position, to not put his defense in a compromising position. And that's how you lose games.
Yes.
And so he knows better than that. He's too good of a coach. Didn't. And we saw that he just let his team take care of business, and they did. They began forcing their own turnovers, forcing 2 in the second half with a fumble and a pick, and scoring. The offense picked up. It was just Indiana letting Indiana be Indiana.
That was the complimentary football in the second half that we were accustomed to seeing, a very big part of the first half of the season that made them so dominant throughout the first half of the year, is that complimentary football you saw in the second half. And that all comes by not yelling, not screaming, not losing control, but being under control.
You're hitting on all the things he talked about in the postgame, Coach. He talked about that very thing. He talked about normally sometimes a situation like this, I'd go in the locker room and I'd be yelling and screaming, but that's not what he did today.
No. And there they had very little in the tank after last week's emotional game on the road at Penn State. And it's just a thing that happens. It's more mental than anything. And that's why. But a couple things why college football is college football. Northwestern leads most of the game. Michigan comes back, kicks a last-second field goal to beat Northwestern in Wrigley. And Texas A&M has the largest comeback in school history against South Carolina, down 30-3 at half to come back
Yeah.
and win 31-30. And that is
Is
an
that game
amazing feat.
that game's over now?
That game is final.
That was going to shake up the SEC. I mean, last week it was Indiana and Penn State that was going to shock the football world. Well, this week it was going to be South Carolina and Texas A&M. But it shows you these games are tough, man. Conference games are tough. That's why it's hard to go to 9 conference games. It's hard.
Yeah.
That's one more that you got to play. It's another road game. These conference games are tough. And like this Wisconsin team, they're not very good, but they're not bad everywhere. They don't have an offense. They're like a lot like Penn State. Penn State's better than they are in a lot of ways.
Right.
Better athletes, better in the trenches, better defense. But they're in the same situation. They don't have an offense right now. If they had an offense, Indiana's ass would have been in trouble last week. No doubt about that.
Yeah, they don't have a quarterback. That's the main fixture in this all. They don't have a quarterback. And the thing about the South Carolina Texas A&M game, different from Indiana's game last week, Indiana was on the road. Texas A&M was at home, and that was 30-3 at halftime at home.
Oh, it was? I thought it was in South Carolina.
No, that was in
my goodness.
At A&M. So two different dynamics there, but
if we had Paul Feinbaum, he'd be telling you that's because the SEC is so good, and South Carolina belongs in the college football playoffs. Man, what are you talking about?
Probably.
Come on, man.
I'd say Penn State beats South Carolina if we played them head to head, but don't tell him that. But anyway, you are correct about everything that has transpired over the season, where we're at, a time to sit and reflect now that you got a bye week. It was a big recruiting weekend there at Bloomington Day with a trove of big time recruits on campus.
100. I mean, at least 100. How many's on a roster now? 105?
105
so they basically had 2 rosters in here today.
Yeah. And a lot of 4-stars and 5-star recruits that are committed elsewhere or decommitting from Penn State on campus. And if they can close some deals this weekend, man, oh man, that's going to make this recruiting class go way up in the overall rankings that we've seen thus far. And you had Steve Wiltfong yesterday.
And they got a chance to see the passing game in the second half on what Indiana does when they turn it up, and knowing that their potential future quarterback playing out there today, Alberto Mendoza, for Fernando. Those 6 yards that Alberto had, if he could just give Fernando one of those yards and he'd have 300. Here's a stat for you. Is Fernando Mendoza, and I'm going to have to go back to see how far back in time we're going to have to go. But how far back are we going to have to go potentially? Maybe he does it next week against Purdue, but he's only thrown 300 yards once this entire season.
I know.
When is the last time a Heisman winning quarterback threw for 300 yards one time during an entire season?
Yeah, it's crazy in that respect. And the fact is, like you said, Jim, though, a lot of that's due to the fact that he played very few minutes in the fourth quarter beyond the halfway point, and that has a big part to do with it. And they blew out the majority of those teams outside of the last couple, weeks. So there's a lot that goes into that, but you're correct. It's very interesting too that he broke Curtis Rourke's touchdown record today, and now is the leader in
the 1-year-old record.
Yeah, the 1-year-old, and that's another crazy thing. How long do you think that record stood? Rourke breaks it last year. Fine quarterback, does what he does, and got him to the playoffs. That all of a sudden, Mr. Mendoza comes to town, probably throws for less than 300 more yards, like you said, than Curtis did a year ago. But he's got as many touchdowns, and he's got them undefeated heading into their rivalry game in 2 weeks at Purdue. It's crazy. Yeah,
and it's going to be, hey, I wonder how many IU fans are going to be up in West Lafayette as Indiana going for 12-0 in West Lafayette. Of course, I know Indiana fans would rather do that here at Merchants Bank Field at Memorial Stadium, But I don't know. Is it nicer to serve that dish in West Lafayette?
Yeah. Well, we're going to need it because otherwise it's going to be a pretty empty stadium in that respect because of Purdue's season. But at the end of the day, again, it's the rivalry. You throw out the records, you throw out who they're, what and who, and Coach Signetti and staff will get themselves prepared for whatever they need to have done prior to going on the road next 2 weeks from now to play Purdue. Another homestand, if I'm not mistaken, under Kurt Signetti, undefeated. I believe
2 years in a row. They've not lost at home. Kurt Signetti has not lost at home period yet.
Yeah.
As the Indiana coach, he's only lost 2 times as the Indiana coach. Both of those on the road last year to Ohio State and then to Notre Dame. But this year, different story, man. Looking forward to seeing how this season plays out. Indiana most likely going to wind up with either the 1 or the 3 seed. But got to wait and see how that all stuff plays out. I'm not going to, play in that prediction game. But now Indiana gets a week off, so they get to rest up. They get to go back, look at everything that they've done the last 2 weeks, because there's a lot to learn from these last 2 weeks. The line that they have played has kind of had their way, and they're going to have to figure out ways. Fernando's got to get better at not taking some of these sacks because some of those I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Right. You've got to get out of there or dump it. I mean, how do you? Who am I to critique the guy that's probably going to win the Heisman?
Well, you're exactly right. And he's holding on the ball too long to try to make a play that's not there. And the best play to make is the one where you line up 2nd and 10 rather than 2nd and 16. And that's no question. He's going to get talked to about that situation there because you can't put yourself off schedule like that and expect to have success on a regular basis.
Well, they're good at bouncing back and at not letting it, kill a drive. Hell, they did it last week against Penn State on the winning drive.
Yeah.
But you can't put yourself in those positions where, oh boy, you get sacked on first down. Now you got 2nd and 15 already, and you got a long 3rd and long, and they were in those situations a lot today, it seemed, and so just gotta get better. At this time of the year, you think that you'd be a little bit more adept at that, but that is something they're going to have to get with, because I promise you, Ohio State and those types of teams, they're going to come after Fernando. They're going to come after this line. They're going to do everything they can to disrupt what they have watched Indiana do to everybody else.
Yeah, I counted out of the 5 sacks, 4 of them could have been avoidable, in my opinion, where if he'd have got rid of the football, he would have been better off. But again, learning steps, self-scouting is what we call what they're going to be able to do over the next couple of weeks, on top of some recruiting, because that will be vitally important, because you only got that one window with the portal this year in January. So between now and the Purdue game, the coaches will be a chance to rest, self-evaluate, and recruit until they take on the Boilers up in West Lafayette in 2 weeks. So there's still a lot on the coach's plate, but they can do it with a week where they're not preparing to go bang heads against somebody.
Absolutely. Well, that's you can stay on as long as you want, but I think that I've spoken all that I have got on this particular game. Indiana now has the bye week, but I would recommend that you go to thehoosier.com to get caught up on everything, including all of the recruits that were here. There's going to be a quiz later, so make sure you're looking at names and spelling correctly. Just kidding. But a great weekend for Indiana, and now they get some time off. Got basketball on Sunday tomorrow, so it doesn't stop for us, but for me at least.
Rest.
They'll be back on Monday, but you're welcome to keep on going as long as you want, or send us away.
What I'm going to do, we're going to let you take off. I'm going to look at see if there's any questions that have appeared that may need to be answered just in case. So we'll see you later, my friend, and catch you on Monday on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Mr. Coyle, have a good evening, my friend, as he signs off there, and see if there's any questions that have come up, since we did start off a little earlier than expected because of the quickness of this game today, it was a game that did not take that long to get by. In some respects, I think it was about a 2-hour and 40-minute ball game. And that has to be the fastest game that we've seen this year on TV. And it felt like every time we went to break with Big Ten Network, it was a 5-minute break, or it assumed that it felt that way. But big games that are going on here this afternoon at the 3:30, you can see those picking across the line there. You've got USC and Iowa. That is a huge game that is going on now in rainy Southern California. The potential, if any, fourth team make it to the college football playoffs from there. I do believe with Oregon getting a big win, they have another big week coming up. They still have Washington and they still have USC on tap. So they're by no means done there. Michigan's hopes stay alive as well, getting that win today in the last seconds. They still have Ohio State looming large, as we know. UCLA tonight against Ohio State. Nico Amalava is not playing. He has a concussion and is out. So that ball game may be ugly from the get-go. And so we're rolling towards the end of the regular season here, fast and furious. And that Michigan-Ohio State game will be pivotal for Michigan. If they want to get into the college football playoffs, they will have to beat Ohio State to do it, I believe. I do believe Indiana will retain the college football ranking of number 2, especially with Texas A&M almost costing themselves dearly today at home against South Carolina, even though they won in a game that South Carolina was, I think, a pretty big underdog in that one. But that being at home, I do think Texas A&M may drop to number 4, and I do think Indiana will remain number 2. And if Indiana is going to have a run at the best team in the country right now, or perceived to be the best team in the country, number 1 Ohio State, they got to get healthy. They've got to take some hard looks at what they're doing and why they're doing it, especially offensively. The defense, I think, has been a very, very consistent factor through the year, other than some slow starts here and there. But I do think the offense needs to get healthy. I think they're banged up, especially along the front lines, and hopefully they can do that here within a week to 10-day time period, but sometimes it takes longer than that as well. So again, remember, tune in to Indiana Sports Beat Radio on Monday. Jim Coyle will have everything for you in terms of what happened today. Of course, Don Fisher will be on to give his analyst to the game today there in Bloomington, Senior Day. I will have a full recap Monday night on Hoosier Tailgate here on the Hoosier.com, 7:30. Come on by. We'll talk about this one. We'll talk about some of the recruits, and we'll talk a little bit of the college football playoff outlook as we head towards that potential bye week for Indiana after Purdue and the Big Ten championship game. Will they contain that top 4 ranking and get a round 1 bye week in the college football playoffs? We'll take care of that all on Monday. But for now, for Jim Coyle, I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. We thank you for watching the Indiana Sports Beat post-game show here on the Hoosier.com. Have a great evening, everybody.